Hello and welcome to another edition of the Moving Iron Podcast. This podcast is proudly provided by Axon, helping dealers move more iron for almost 100 years. Find out more at axontire.com. Axon was started almost 100 years ago out of a passion for keeping agriculture moving. It's that same passion that drives them today. With a vision for a better experience for both farmer and dealer, they set out to create a better way to move more iron. When you partner with Axon, you get immediate access to a full range of products and solutions designed to meet the complex needs of today's grower. Axon carries all major brands and sizes of tires, wheels, and tracks. From custom colors and sizes to fully customized wheels, you can have the solution for virtually any problem today's farmer is trying to solve. To find more or become an Axon dealer, please visit axontire.com.
Moving iron in the 21st century. Hard-working people working hard for you and me. Moving iron, time and time again. Through the years you'll find us here. Moving iron.
Hello and welcome to Moving Iron Podcast Markets with Chip Nellinger. This edition of the Moving Iron Podcast is brought to you by Axon Tire, helping dealers move more iron for the past 100 years. More information, go to axontire.com. Also, tractorzoom delivering insights. They have a product called Iron Comps, which gets about 500 different auction houses to report independently of what their auction results are. And it's a great way to track what's going on across the country as far as auction trends go. So if you're interested in that product, use Moving Iron to check out and get yourself a discount. Chip is with Blue Leaf Agri-Marketing out of Morton, Illinois, and Chip is nice enough to come on twice a week to sit down and talk about what's going on in the market. All right, Chip. So kind of looking at what we saw happening last week with Pro Farmer doing their tour, and they kind of came back in the same range as what the USDA came back with. I really thought that, the markets would have a way different reaction Monday, and what that would look like. And actually, we finished, I think we might have finished down a little bit, fell off of 1.5 cents on corn. And I really thought we'd see a different reaction, but I guess we're waiting for that September report to come out where the USDA has a lot more agronomics kind of figured into that and what the whole thing kind of looks like. So what are your thoughts from what we saw from Pro Farmer and then what we're seeing today from the trade?
Yeah, I kind of agree with you. I didn't think Pro Farmer was wildly bearish necessarily. Maybe a touch higher on the bean side than maybe what the market was thinking, but corn was certainly in the realm of expectation. And then to get to that number, which I never seen him do really, the Pro Farmer Tour actually increased the acreage, right? Get that big of a yield or crop size. So that was a little bit of a head scratcher to me. So it wasn't bearish. I think the outside markets took on more importance. You had some big dollar moves. The Federal Reserve minutes from a couple weeks ago had the outside market money flow really in a little bit of a tizzy, so to speak. And you saw a lot of money flowing. And I think the close Friday did some damage to the charts, and you saw the funds continuing to sell this corn market to start the new week out, which was a little disappointing. You would have thought we would have had better support. But, we've got the Jackson Hole meeting from the Federal Reserve this week. And, there's a lot of back and forth on 2 weeks ago that in the Fed minutes, which are delayed, by the way, they said, we're going to taper quicker than expected. And since then, there's been some economic reports out there maybe showing that the economy's not growing as much as expected. Unemployment, maybe a little worse than expected. And now the talk is maybe they aren't going to taper. And so you got a lot of money flow. You had some weird moves in these commodities. You had that huge move higher in lumber. It's really, cratered. You've had some big runs higher here in some of the soft commodities, and they're starting to set back a little bit. Crude oil had a huge update today, but it's, $5-6 or more off the highs. So we're having some volatility in some of these commodity markets. And to your point, I think we're, less than 3 weeks away from the September crop report. And that's when we get a little better, more accurate information. They actually go out and check fields, weigh ears, count pods, weigh pods. And so that September report here coming up is going to be interesting, and I think reset the market as to what the yields really could be.
Right. So I guess, take a look at wheat too. Wheat has been kind of had a really bullish report on that last USDA report when they came out here earlier last week, and that hasn't subsided. That price, the wheat price, has really gained some traction. Is really showing some real bullish trends right now. So talk about wheat, what you see happening there.
Yeah, that was probably the most bullish part of that August crop report. And world wheat prices are starting to reflect that too. You know, there's we're not just the only game in town when it comes to wheat. Obviously, many places in the world have that, but you have Russian wheat prices near the highs. You have European, particularly French wheat prices up near recent highs. And it's what's kind of interesting is as the corn market has broke lower, you're increasing open interest, and what that means is longs are getting out, and you're actually seeing new shorts coming in. The opposite's happening in the wheat market. We've sold off from the highs, but open interest is just kind of slightly lower. That means that some longs are taking profits. That's a healthy bull market. And, you know, wheat was the leader today. It acted really well, closed off the highs a little bit, 8 or 9 cents, but still wheat seems to be the strongest thing going. I think world prices, there's still a lot of uncertainty with what the final what Russian wheat crop size is going to be.
Right.
A lot of people are arguing that they're done exporting or going to have very little to export and use that domestically. If that's the case, we've definitely not seen the highs in the wheat market. The cash markets across the world are going to tell you that, and right now they're fairly friendly, up near recent highs. So that's something that's going to ultimately support the corn market. I think there's only a limited downside in corn, especially if wheat's going to continue to make another leg higher. Mm-hmm. And you know, spring wheat's part of this too. You know, that harvest is advancing. I think we're up getting close to 80% harvested in spring wheat, and you know, once this thing gets past harvest and we kind of figure out what the size of the spring wheat crop is, both here in Canada, then the end user is going to have to come to the market, and you know, all the harvest selling pressure will be gone. We know the drought hurt that crop, and it's smaller than normal, smaller than usual, and so protein is going to be kind of king and at a high premium this year. So I think, to your point, wheat to me still looks strong. As long as that's going to stay firm, I don't think corn can go a whole lot lower. And in fact, that might be part of what's going on. Is we've had a weird situation where, you know, for a period of time, you know, you had corn over wheat. That's not very, or close to it. And you've had Chicago wheat over Kansas City wheat. So there might be a lot of spread activity going on here too, where we get kind of back to a normal protein shortage type of market where wheat's going to go quite a bit higher than corn, which it normally is. And that might actually be pressuring corn a little bit as you get some of that spread activity, funds and commercials buying wheat, selling corn. That might be some of what is working against corn here recently. Mm-hmm. And then you had, you know, the whole thing too, you might have wanted to touch on this. One of the weirdest things I've seen is this Friday mid-session, you had some news by Reuters and some other outlets about the EPA maybe putting some sort of recommendation for lower renewable fuel standards out that really, wrecked the soy oil market. Friday, it really increased the selling pressure in corn. I don't know if there's much clarity in that yet, but it looks like after cooler heads prevailed over the weekend here, that's going to be more of a kind of a 24-month unchanged type of a thing. Might be a tick lower for 21, but then going back up again in 22. Net, there shouldn't be much of a change. So that didn't do the market any favors, at least soy oil and corn on Friday. And unfortunately, for a daily close and a weekly close, that was pretty ugly in corn. And I think, you know, that kind of did some damage to the chart, even though that was kind of more of a rumor than a real news story. You know, you can't go back in time, and it still hurt the corn chart. And I think you saw the effects of that today. And hopefully, I think there's going to be good buying on further break. I think a lot of people between 5.10 and 5.25 December are waiting to step up to the plate and buy. In fact, we sold some corn to Mexico this morning. I think 458,000 tons. So that's a good sign that there's starting to be a little bit of value in here. We're starting to see some business done anyway. So maybe that can continue as we go forward, especially if we dip a little bit lower in corn going forward.
Yeah. So one thing I did want to hit on today while you were here is if kind of right now there's the way the sugar crop is kind of shaping up down in Brazil right now. They've had some freezes and the more you freeze sugar cane, if you freeze it once, you get more sugar content, but the more of that stuff that you the more times you freeze it over and over again, sooner or later you're going to do some damage to it. So they're expecting to have less sugar than they've had in the past. Brazil has imported some U.S. ethanol, I guess. So as you take a look at the ethanol market right now, with the shortage of corn that we see out there right now, and in some of these countries like Brazil, for example, where ethanol is kind of a big driver of their energy market, what do you see in the ethanol market, and how do you see that kind of playing into this picture?
Yeah, so that's a real question right now, particularly with this EPA news from Friday, and they've certainly not been pro ag; they've been pro oil, without question, and so that plays into this a little bit. What they're ultimately going to do with any tweaks in the renewable fuel standard. What Biden essentially, it's going to come down to the Biden administration and what they choose to do. You would hope that they would follow what they pledged and be pro renewable fuel. That's one dynamic domestically, and then as you mentioned, this drought in Brazil, and then multiple freezes, and that's really you've got sugar at I don't know, almost 3+ year highs here recently. It's backed off the highs a little bit. The primary driver of feedstock of Brazilian ethanol is sugar. Of course, we know that their corn crop is their second corn crop down there is really subpar because of the drought and then the multiple freezes. And they're still, getting that crop harvested, and so I think that's something that A, they're not going to have as much corn to export. B, if their sugar was, there's some people saying that could be 20+% shortfalls in their sugar production, and that for sure could be a driver. They've already imported some Argentine corn into Brazil. That's weird timing. That's kind of probably going to show you just how poor that crop might be on corn. And so that's something that over the next 5 or 6 months, there's nowhere else to just tightens the feed grain situation up. If Russia is going to have limited wheat to export, if Brazil is going to have limited corn to export, and they've got a problem with sugar, I'm not a rocket scientist, but that bodes well for both our wheat and corn demand going forward, and until they have another crop in the southern hemisphere, and that's not going to be until February, March timeframe at the earliest.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Man, a lot of moving parts here, Chip. And you talk about the need for a plan all the time, and folks are working on that plan. It's a great time to get some advice on what's happening there. So if people want to reach out to you, Chip, and get some more information about what you're doing at Blue Reef, what's the best way to do that? Yeah,
best way is probably just give us a call at the office. It's 309-550-7213. And the volatility is here to stay, I think, for the foreseeable future. And it doesn't mean you have to be handcuffed by it. Even though we've seen corn puke off the highs here, it doesn't mean there's not things to do, and you got to have a plan and execute it, or you do get kind of handcuffed and cut off at the knees by the volatility. So we'd love to chat with you.
Right on. I'm Casey Seymour with Moving Iron Podcast. Make sure you check me out on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. That's where you're going to find the latest editions of the Moving Iron Podcast. Also, go to MovingIronLLC.com. That's where you're going to find all of the library of the Moving Iron Podcast, as well as all the blogs I have written there as well. So with that, I am Casey Seymour, Chip Nellinger. Let's get smart, folks. Out.
You want to have a meaningful competitive advantage to help sell more equipment. Whether you represent the sales, parts, or management department of an implement dealership, there's a surprising amount of complexity when it comes to tire, wheel, and track technology. Let Axon worry about that so you can get back to supporting your customers. Axon has leveraged years of experience to create a streamlined process that gives you a proven path to help today's grower and sell more equipment. The roots of their organization go back almost 100 years to the invention of the rubber tractor tire. Supporting agriculture is the number one driver of Axon, from product development through sales and service. To find more or become an Axon dealer, head over to axontire.com.
Moving higher in the 21st century. Hard-working people working hard for you and me. Moving higher, time and time again. Through the years you'll find us here. Moving higher. Moving higher in the 21st century.